All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here today. The purpose of our meeting is we're going to be discussing Joey, who is one of Josh's students. We're going to be looking at Joey's data, really analyzing it and coming up with some ideas for why he may not be responding to the intervention that he's being given. Based on that discussion, we'll choose some evidence-based interventions and then develop a plan for Joey. As far as our norms go for this meeting, our norms are to be focused, to be efficient, and to be effective. So we'll be sticking to those today. Also a reminder about our roles. Obviously Josh is here as the referring teacher, so he'll be discussing data as I mentioned and the specifics of Joey. Gina's going to be our note taker, and then Charlotte's going to be our timekeeper. And Charlotte has a copy of our agenda with the time limits. So she'll be keeping us on track with that. Charlotte, if it gets to be 15 seconds before our time limit is up, just let us know and we'll move on, okay? Okay, Josh, if you'll start talking about Joey, some things to remember. Please make sure that you're talking about his strengths as well as areas of concern, reviewing his student data, and then talking about the specifics of the intervention that you're using.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks you guys for being here to work with me into this process. I definitely could use a little bit of help. So, Joey's in my third grade class. Overall, Joey's a good kid. Things that are strengths, he likes math. He works hard, especially in math. He's a good friend. He has good peer relationships. He's social. One of the areas that he struggles with a little bit is, maybe too social during reading time, tends to be a little off task and sometimes makes some noises and things. And truthfully, reading is the area that he struggles with. That's his weakness. And so that's kind of what I want to talk with you guys about. I do have him in kind of a strategic group with 4 other students. And we're working on reading mastery. I chose that because he's quite a ways behind. I would say he's probably working at like a first grade reading level. And so I've been having him work on that for the last couple weeks in reading mastery with these 4 other students. I do have some data I'd like to show you guys. I got it on the screen up here. And so I'll Bart, if you'll grab the light so we can see that a little better. Thank you. You can see that he started, this is the oral reading fluency assessment. This is a test that reads, he's reading a passage and it keeps track of how many words he can read accurately in a minute. And so he was only able to do 22 words in that first assessment, which is significantly below where he should be in 3rd grade. These are his baseline data points here on this blue line, and you can see not only is he not growing, but it's even maybe slightly trending downward. This orange line is his goal line, so starting where he was at, and then it would continue to go up. I had set a goal with a rate of improvement for him at a 1.2, which is a little bit more than like what the average growth of a year would be. This line indicates where I started reading mastery in a small group with the 4 other students who also struggle with reading. And you can see that it has had some effect. He is starting to grow a little bit more with reading that connected text and that oral reading fluency. But it's really not, it's not growing at the pace that I would like to see him to where he'll be able to close the gap. So does that make sense to you guys? Everything's good on that? Okay, good. So, his reading, the real struggles are he has a hard time even just sounding out basic words, reading those words, even in short books with simple sentences. All of those things are affected with his reading.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Josh. Okay, so now what we need to move into is asking Josh questions about Joey, any of the information he shared, just to clarify, again, maybe why Joey is not making the progress that he should be. So I can go ahead and start. You're welcome to ask as many questions as you want to make sure we have a handle on why Joey's not growing. So Josh, you mentioned reading mastery. that maybe the implementation of the intervention was a little bit hit and miss. How well do you feel like you're implementing reading mastery the way it's designed as an intervention?
So my goal with it is to have those 5 students working 4 days a week for 20 minutes of reading mastery. And the reality is, there's a lot of times where there's other interruptions that tend to get in the way, or a lesson will carry on longer and I won't have that opportunity. Perhaps somebody will come in. And so, we have not been able to consistently meet for 4 days a week. Sometimes it's 3 days. And then on top of that, sometimes we only can get 12 minutes or 15 minutes versus the full 20 minutes I'd like to be able to get with those guys. A lot of it just depends on how our previous lessons we're going through, on how efficiently the kids can just transition to get started. And so, I would say that that's probably a big challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Do you think the reading mastery was an appropriate fit for Joey, given the skill deficits that he has?
So, I think so. He is a little old to be working in that program, but his skill deficits, basic phonics and even being able to sound words out and blend those sounds together, those are things he struggles with that are practiced a lot in reading mastery. Reading mastery for teaching phonics has a long history of good evidence, and so I think it's pretty well aligned to his skill deficit, and it looks like it is having some effect.
Okay. Have you thought of perhaps like some phonemic awareness that he could be struggling with as well? And does reading mastery cover that?
There's a little bit of phonemic awareness work in reading mastery, like segmenting the sounds and blending the sounds, but I haven't formally assessed his phonemic awareness or really looked into that. So,
have you communicated with the students' previous teachers and parents to get a better idea of his performance?
So I've talked with his mom quite a bit, and his parents have been concerned about reading since kindergarten. He seems to have always struggled with identifying letters and letter sounds. I haven't talked with the teacher from kindergarten or first grade, but I did talk to his last year's teacher. She had also mentioned that reading was a real struggle for him, that he was behind. I think because he was a little younger, that gap wasn't as big. But now, obviously, they've been concerned. The teachers and the parents have all been concerned about his reading.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions? Okay, so just to summarize, it sounds like we have some questions about the fidelity of implementation for the intervention. So maybe that being a contributing factor to him not making growth. Maybe some other skill deficits like phonemic awareness that haven't really been assessed or intervened for just at that really specific level. And then also that this has been a concern for a while. So it's something we need to get taken care of. So I think we've got some good hypotheses about what may be happening. Let's go ahead and move into identifying some interventions or things that you can do to improve your implementation. So anyway, same thing. I think we each just go around. Gina's going to keep track of our suggestions, and then we'll prioritize them. So again, I'll start. My question was about the fidelity issue. I think if you really want to be able to see if it's going to make an improvement, we've got to find a way to get those 4 days a week for 20 minutes. And that would be my recommendation to start with, since he's already used to the routine of reading mastery. You've got some things down there that will probably be beneficial, but that would be my recommendation, is let's get those times and
Okay.
set.
So you think, no less than 4 days a week,
20
as consistently as possible, a full
Yeah.
20 minutes of work. Okay, and I'll have to do a little adjusting with the schedule,
Okay.
and maybe look at a different time slot so that it's not as impacted from my previous instruction, maybe going over.
Sure.
But I think I can probably look at that.
Okay.
what do you think about assessing for phonemic awareness and making sure that you're covering all of the skill deficits that he has?
So I think that would be potentially a good idea. Like I said, I don't think Reading Mastery really has a good assessment for that. Do you guys know? Are there any tools I could look at using, or?
You just did all that work with the orthographic mapping. I'd use their assessment.
Oh, yeah,
So-
that's a good idea.
And that can be done relatively quickly. So not only that, if you find there are deficits, there's some
Start
good
addressing,
lessons.
just start
Yeah, you
addressing
can
the
start
phonemic
working on
awareness
it.
deficits. Good.
Mhm.
All right, I like that. Awesome.
Okay, you mentioned that he gets off task, especially during reading time. Have you thought about doing some motivators, some kind of rewards and things to kind of keep him on task?
Yeah, that's a good point. Usually I just kind of try to redirect him, or if it's particularly bad, sometimes he'll have to take a seat in the back of the room or something where he's away from his peers. But you know what? That's probably a good idea to pick up, maybe some awards or something for staying on task, especially during the reading time. I think. I hadn't even thought about doing that. It's a good call.
Cool. Okay, excellent. So we've got 3 pretty solid recommendations. Josh, let's move into the planning and prioritizing piece of this meeting. Of the 3 interventions that we've recommended, do you want to talk about which one you think would be the most impactful and you want to start with right away? Can you do all of these? What will fit with your time and what you need to get done?
Well, okay. I think probably the one that really needs to be addressed first would be the amount of time, and making it a priority to say we're going to have no less than 4 days a week with 20 minutes of solid instruction. I think that would really help me see if this is the right intervention, if that's going to be enough to get him without having to add any other layers of intervention or adjust anything. The other one that I think is pretty easy, that would probably be something I could do in conjunction with that, is look at maybe getting some reinforcers or talking to him about like what kinds of things would you like to earn, and then specifically focus in on him earning by staying on task, working quietly through reading, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that those 2 are things that I could probably implement pretty easily. Again, I'll look at my schedule and I'll try to minimize any interruptions to our instructional time. But I think if we can do those 2 things, that'll be a good start.
Perfect.
And then if I still don't see what I'm looking for, maybe then I can bring in some of those other assessment tools.
Okay, great. Awesome. Did you want
I was just gonna say, let's discuss a specific timeline for that. So it's Friday today. Would you want to change your schedule on Monday, or and the motivators?
It's a good time to do
Okay.
that, to look at. And what I'm thinking is right now I have them doing it right before lunchtime. And so what happens often is I'll be running my lesson with the whole class, and then I have them break up into groups, and sometimes we just don't get to break up into groups, and so we just keep going through till lunch. So what I'm thinking is maybe I can move that group time to after lunch, so that's the first thing we do. There's nothing that's going to interrupt it, and so I'll probably look at changing it to after lunch.
Okay. So for his plan, you're going to be responsible for delivering the intervention. You're going to use Reading Mastery. The group size is 4.
5, actually.
5, okay.
Yeah, 4 plus him.
Okay. There'll be 4 sessions per week, 20 minutes per session. Additional resources, you're going to add in some motivators.
Yeah, some kind of, I'll talk to him and figure out what
Okay.
we want to get.
And how are you going to continue monitoring the same way you've done before with the progress monitoring?
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
And then let's just define the goal. Earlier you said that his rate of improvement should be 1.2. Do you want to continue with that same goal?
So yeah, I think we'll continue with the 1.2, and my hope is what we would see. You know, he has a pretty low rate of growth right now. Is that rate of improvement will come up, maybe even above a 1.2,
Okay.
but at least a 1.2, so we can make up some lost ground.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so it looks like got some good interventions, got a good goal set. We just need a time to follow up. So you said 3 weeks to see if the recommendations are working. So in 3 weeks, it'll be April 15th. And we'll just plan on 8 o'clock again before school starts to review our data. And if we need to go through the process again of refining and intensifying the intervention, we can.
I like that, and I'm wondering too, like if maybe Charla can come in a week and just see how it's going with actually after lunch, if that's making a difference in giving us 4 days a week. Do you mind following up on that?
Yeah, I can do that.
So do you mind adding that to the resources needed as well,
Yes.
Charla, following up with Josh in class, just for coaching support if need be?
Sure, appreciate you guys' help.
Yeah.
I think we got a good plan.
Yeah.
Good, excellent. Well, thank you everyone for your time.
Yeah, thank you.